What's going on, everyone? Jeremy here from The Quartering. An interesting little update from Dune director Denis Villeneuve. I assume that's how it's pronounced. There's like 30% chance I'm right. It seems fashionable for modern day directors to be dunking on the Marvel formula, but it's hard to add a lot of credibility to that when people continually flock to the theaters to watch just about anything that says Marvel on it. We saw first when Martin Scorsese whined about Marvel movies, and quite frankly, even though Martin Scorsese has a huge catalog of amazing films, it was mostly received as like sour grapes since so many people just blindly love Marvel. But there is something to the truth. I mean, obviously they are formulaic, and there are no real stakes in them, which is a frustrating thing as a viewer. I would like to have some stakes in my films, not just the edible kind. But Dennis, the director of Dune, I'm not sure that I would be going out there right now dumping on Marvel movies, 3 days before your film opens, but it's a bold move. Dune is one of those movies too, by the way, that probably people thought was going to be a $1 billion movie pre-lockdowns. I'd be willing to bet that, I guess it depends significantly on whether or not it gets released in China. But I mean, this film, I don't know if it's, so many of these films that had so much hype pre-lockdown, is it going to have the same juice? Is it going to have the same number of people running to the theater? I feel like I've kind of lost the hype for the film too. But, ultimately I do want to see it. But will I go to the theater and see it? Will I just watch it from home? Dune director Denis Villeneuve recently posted that Marvel and superhero films have turned filmgoers into zombies. His comments came during an interview to promote the upcoming Dune film with Spanish language website El Mundo. Using Google's machine translation from Spanish to English, he was asked, "Isn't it contradictory to you that Dune is a blockbuster, the greatest exponent of commercial cinema, and therefore therefore of the system it criticizes?" Of course, Dune criticizing this very system. Who wants to become, and therefore the system it criticizes, who wants to become the conscience against the drift of capitalism? The director responded, "Just think of the golden age of Hollywood, to see that commercial films can make different artistic proposal and therefore political. I have never felt like a loss or an impediment to have a generous budget to do what I wanted to do, upside down." He then questioned, who said that a movie on a big budget can't be artistically relevant at the same time? I'm currently thinking of people like Christopher Nolan or Alfonso. I'm not sure how to pronounce that last name. My cat just attacked my assistant. In a follow-up, Villeneuve said he would be asked about Martin Scorsese's recent comments about superhero films. Back in 2019, Scorsese spoke to Empire Magazine to promote his Irishman film, which is like 3.5 hours long. When he was asked about Marvel Studios films, The Gangs in New York director, by the way, amazing movie, "I don't see them. I tried, but that's not cinema." He further added, "Honestly, the closest I can think of them, as well made as they are, with actors doing the best they can under the circumstances, is theme parks. It isn't the cinema of human beings trying to convey emotional, psychological experiences to another human being." In an op-ed published in the New York Times, Scorsese would further flesh out his thoughts on Marvel, saying, "Some people seem to have seized on my last part of my answer as insulting or evidence that I hated Marvel. If anyone is intent on characterizing my words in that light, there's nothing I can do to stand in the way." He further added, "The fact that the films themselves don't interest me is a matter of personal taste and temperament. I know that if I were younger, I'd come of age at a later time. I might have been excited to see these pictures and maybe even wanted to make one myself. But I grew up when I did, and I developed a sense of movies." He's basically saying like, it's just a personal preference thing. For me, cinema was about revelation, aesthetic, emotional, and spiritual revelation. It was about characters, the complexity of people and their contradictory and sometimes paradoxical natures, the ways they can hurt one another and love one another, suddenly come face to face with themselves. It was about confronting the unexpected on screen and the life it dramatized and interpreted, and enlarging the sense of what was possible in the art form. Yeah, I mean, obviously, I don't think, I think films have, allow me to defend Marvel for a minute here. Ultimately, not every movie is trying to change the world. I mean, look at the movie Free Guy, a movie I'd probably pay to see twice simply because it's just a good popcorn film outside of a few cringe like social justice jokes. I thought it was very good. Marvel movies can also be very good, but they're not going to change the world. Of course not. Many films today are perfect products of manufactured or for immediate consumption. Many of them are made well by teams of talented individuals. All the same, they lack something essential to cinema, the unifying vision of an individual artist. Because, of course, the individual artist is the riskiest factor of them all. Well, yeah, I would argue, that's easy to say when you're Martin Scorsese and you're already 100 years old and you've made all your money. When asked about Scorsese's thoughts, Villeneuve responded, perhaps the problem is that we're in front of too many Marvel movies, and they are nothing more than a cut and paste of others. 100% agree. That isn't inherently bad. I mean, all the Nightmare on Elm Street movies, I know they're not maybe considered cinema gold, but they're all basically the same, and I enjoy them all the same. Or all the same Halloween movies, or all the same Missing in Actions. They were all cut and pastes of the same thing, and I still enjoyed them. Rush Hour 1, 2, and 3 were all basically the same. They're still good. This isn't necessarily a bad thing. He added, perhaps these type of movies have turned us into zombies, but big and expensive movies of great value, there are many today. I don't feel capable of being pessimistic at all. I think ultimately you can read some of these comments, sounds suspiciously like he's front-loading excuses if Dune flops. He's not wrong about that cut and paste comment, especially with some of Marvel's most recent films. I agree. Here's another take. I don't disagree with him on his superhero films. They're already tiresome by time Endgame came around. I watched that one for completeness more than anything else. He, of course, already preparing for a less than stellar box office for Dune. I guess it's hard for me to disagree with that. Dune has had some interesting casting choices, some interesting articles, and some interesting things to be said. I hope the movie is still very good for fans of Dune, but I wasn't really that pumped about it. It's hard to be a mega fan of everything. And I know a lot of my viewers are big fans of Dune and they're going to consume this movie. I probably would still watch it. I don't know if it's going to be theater exclusive or not. I don't think it is, actually. I think it's also on HBO Max, maybe. I feel like it was a dual release. I could be wrong, but you could see he's not wrong. The Marvel cult is definitely hurting the quality of the products. I mean, did anyone actually see that terrible Hawkeye trailer? What a pile. I don't think it was that bad. I just think it was just, formulaic Marvel stuff. The problem is that same formula is oversetting, it's being overused. I still demand some consequences in my films, and Marvel just refuses to give them to me. Is he worried about Dune flopping? I don't know. I mean, it was a big budget, I'll tell you that. Let's see, 165 million. The 1984 one spent 45 million. Okay, so the Dune remake has the same budget as Interstellar, for example. And it's going to need to make $330 million just to break even. That's, 2 years ago, I feel like that was going to be automatic. But now, I haven't really been seeing a lot of advertising for it, other than now him getting out there and trying to dump on Marvel films so he grabs the headlines. I don't have anything against him directly, not one bit. If I see it, maybe it'll be an IMAX theater, but reviews seem okay. I'd be curious to see how this shakes out. Let me know what you think. Do you think he's just being smarmy for headlines? Do you think Dune is actually going to flop? Are you interested in seeing it? I'll be curious to read your comments in the comment section down below, and we'll talk to you again real soon.